Mo, many people know you through your service on the select board. Tell me a little bit about your life, your profession, and your families.
After getting out of the Army in 1967, I worked for a year in Boston and then went to graduate school at Cornell University and got a master's degree in regional planning. I met my wife there. She's from Gloucester, Mass. She was getting a Master of Fine Arts in writing. I went back to graduate school after working for 3 years with the Pittsburgh Redevelopment Authority, and I got a master's degree in public health and worked in hospital administration, family planning. I did a lot of work with hospice towards the end of my career. And we moved back here in 1986 towards the end of my wife's medical residency. She had a career change as well. And we've been here ever since. And I worked at Newton Wellesley Hospital in those days, where I was a vice president. I became active in the community with the Needham Heights Neighborhood Association. At that time, there was a major controversy over a proposed Star Market in the Heights where the Avery Manor is. That was defeated in the planning board, and I started to become more active in the town. And in 1995 or 6, I was appointed to the design partnership for the downtown, where I worked with a committee of other people to develop design standards to try to make our downtown more attractive. I ended up being appointed to the planning board and served there for about 14 years, and then ran for the select board in 2009.
And what makes you want to continue to serve on the board?
Because I still believe I have a lot to give to the town. I think we're coming out of a very challenging period. We're going to have to restore our downtown economy and businesses. We're going to have to adjust to the change in work patterns for the principal tax support in our town to help the residents, and that is the business center across 128 Needham Crossing, and potentially the Muzzy site. And so we need to figure out how to maximize the benefits to Needham and its residents, and how to manage the activity around those in the face of very changing work patterns. We still don't know how people's ability to work at home will affect commuting. So there's a lot of work to be done in that. In addition, we have been grappling as a community with the racial equity issue and the diversity and inclusion issue in our town. And we've just started that process, and it's taken its own life, and it's going to be a very challenging and important task for all of us. And I think I'm well suited to support the efforts in that. I'm also very interested in green technology and green values with respect to energy consumption. My wife and I have solar on our home, and we try to maximize our ability to minimize our use of energy. And the town is doing that as well. During my tenure on the board, we put in 15 acres of solar panels at the RTS, what many of us still call the dump. And I think there's a lot more to be done that way. Recently, Needham became a green community, which makes us eligible for grants. So sustainability is very important to me, and I think I have a positive role to play in that effort.
What will be your priorities for your next term?
There are two driving priorities right now. One is coming out of the COVID pandemic constrictions on our businesses, and the effect on that has been major. I mean, for years, I was active in trying to promote the rebirth of the downtown, because when I was on the planning board, vacancies were a major problem. And we've done many things, including opening up Needham to well-regulated, high-quality alcohol. And the town hall renovation, you can see the town hall behind me. It's a photo. I'm not actually in the town hall. Those have all contributed to the vibrancy in the downtown, but it took years to get there. And now we've lost a lot of that due to the pandemic. So a major priority is going to have to be to help rebuild that commercial base and the civic atmosphere in our downtown. And in bringing in mixed use along Chestnut Street. That's going to be a planning board priority, but my board has to work collaboratively with them and provide some leadership in governing some of those issues as they come through the town's processes. The other issue which we're dealing with is that the growing awareness of the racial inequity in our country and how it impacts on Needham. I promised town meeting in June of 2020 we would begin a series of very difficult discussions around this issue. So with respect to the governmental aspect, I think we have to make it an active consideration in every policy we write, in every activity we undergo, whether or not we are inadvertently creating situations that may be racist or disequitable in their effect. And on the private side, I think we need to work as citizens, and we're in leadership positions in this community, so we have to be vocal about this in terms of our own values, in getting people to understand that there are things that they do on a daily basis that they don't even know they're doing that may have very painful consequences or results for people who are members of minority communities, or people who have different gender identities, or people who have different physical conditions that make them stand out from other people. We're all part of one community. And again, I think that reflects the primary value of most people I know in this town. Most people in this town are welcoming and warm and friendly. But all of us, myself included, I've been learning that certain things that I do may have unintended consequences for other people that I never even thought about. And that's all through this process.
What else are on your agenda except for recovering from pandemic and racial equity?
Well, we have an ongoing need to be sustainable. I mean, I've learned through my work in regional planning about the unintended consequences of global warming, namely runoff and the effect of climate change on our infrastructure and our own use of energy. So, for example, people are experiencing more and more flooding in our town because we have an infrastructure that was built for a different climate. So it can't handle the frequency of the high rainfalls that we've been getting. So we have to be very creative, and we have to put our resources into dealing with that.
What's your vision for Needham, and has that changed over the years you're on board?
I see Needham as being a model for how to adjust to regional demands for greater imagination in dealing with housing issues, and in terms of being a green, sustainable community that is inclusive and welcoming to all people. When I moved here, the overwhelming impression I had, if I were describing Needham to a friend in Pittsburgh, is it's a community of capes, small, modest houses, well cared for, but modest. This has become a very much more affluent community. And so a lot of the demands on the town for services have changed. A lot of the characteristics of people who move in have changed. I mean, they used to be, for example, a newcomers club. When people moved to Needham, the realtors would put them together with other people who had just recently moved, and that integrated them into the community. So we need to be looking, and not just town government. I think the real estate community and other people who are dealing with people who are newly moving to the town need to find ways to integrate them into the community.
What do you think are your strengths, and why people should vote for you again?
I think most people who are at all active in this community, whether they're part of government or not, know of my work, and they know of my temperament in getting that work done. I've been a force for coalition. Everything I've ever done, including moving the old schoolhouse to the Newman lawn and integrating it into a history center, again, with a team of people, a coalition of people against great odds in many of these circumstances, gives me the ability to make those kinds of coalitions come together to solve the common problems we all have. I'm an elected member of the governing body of the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which is the planning organization for the 101 cities and towns around Greater Boston. And I've gotten Needham a much stronger voice in that organization. I want to continue to be able to do that.